Now, before I go and learn how to actually do media queries and figure out how responsive design works based on what other people have done in the past, which isn't really figuring it out at all, and their responsive designs are flawed every time, I'd rather keep my mind clean and invent. And here's what I propose. The width range is pretty straightforward. I've never heard that term used, but it makes sense, right? The minimum width of something and the maximum width of something, the width range. Let's say this sidebar that's going to be used on my software is usually about 300 pixels wide on a desktop computer, which would be a nice comfortable width given most resolutions. Let's just say the rule would be this. If the total width of the screen is 1024 pixels wide or more, this 300 pixel width comes into effect, or indeed a percentage of the screen is used. So let's say 1/4 of the screen is used for the sidebar, so 25% is used for the sidebar if the width is 1024 pixels or more. If it's 1023 pixels or less, then the sidebar will become full screen width and it will become a pop-out from the side. Does that sound logical? Because unless somebody's using an old resolution on a large screen because they've got bad eyesight, I don't think anybody's going to really have a large screen with such low resolution set anymore. Whereas phones and tablets often have resolution as low as lower than that. In which case you'd want the sidebar to take up the full screen because otherwise it would be too small. Does that make sense? Larger screens generally have over 1024 pixels, which is why I've made that rule. Smaller screens usually have finer pixels, but at this stage of history, yeah, you see what I mean? If the 326 ppi was used on desktop monitors, then it would be very straightforward. We'd just set everything the same. But unfortunately, it's the opposite way around. Things that are small have better resolution because it's such a high-end market, so they're spending a lot of money on that, which is why I suppose I think it's LG who manufactures the screens for iPhones and Samsung Galaxies and everything. So at this point in history, it's going to be as simple as that. When desktop monitors become really high resolution, like 326 ppi, stuff like that, which I don't see would be taking more than 2 or 3 years, then we'll kick back into having a more generic responsive design, as those people you'll read about all over the internet have described. But as far as I'm concerned, at the moment, it's no good for panel widths, and my software depends on panels. And with that in mind, I would suggest that these panels are set as percentages depending on the total width range of the screen, or the total width of the screen. Split it like 1020 up to 1023 equals this, 1024 to I don't know, 2000 equals this, etc.